Opening statements now scheduled to begin on Monday in the murder trial of the Doomsday cult mom, Lori Vallow. The Idaho woman accused of killing her 2 children and her husband's ex-wife nearly 3 years ago. So what have we learned about the strategies from the questions being asked during the jury selection process? Lori Vallow, who watched the entire process, seated between her 2 attorneys, has pled not guilty to all 7 charges against her. 2 charges of first-degree murder and a slew of other charges, including for continuing to collect Social Security benefits on behalf of her children, according to the indictment. In 2019, Lori's friend reported that Chad Daybell, who at the time was an author who wrote books about preparing for the end of days, had a relationship with Lori. The two apparently started referring to some people as zombies, their word for those whose souls are replaced by dark spirits. Lori's former friend telling 48 Hours that Vallow referred to her husband at the time, Charles, meaning Lori Vallow's husband at the time, Charles, as a demon. Charles Vallow contacted police in January of 2019 to report concerns about his wife, telling them she'd threatened to murder him.
She threatened me, murder me, kill me.
She threatened to murder you?
Yes. And she said,
how did she do that?
My bishop right there is in the car. He was on the phone with me today when she said, I will have you destroyed.
And it was that month, September of 2019, that her daughter, Tylee, was last seen alive. According to Lori's friend, Vallow had started referring to Tylee as a zombie. 13 days later, 7-year-old JJ Vallow, Lori's adopted son, disappeared as well. After Lori Vallow refused to comply with a police order to produce her children, she was arrested in 2020 in Hawaii. 2 weeks later, was extradited to Idaho.
Can you tell me where your kids are?
What happened to JJ?
They've been missing for 4 months. You have nothing to say?
During a June 2020 search of Chad Daybell's backyard, police uncovered human remains in shallow graves. Those bodies were later identified as JJ Vallow and Tylee Ryan. But there were a lot of questions asked of these jurors that may give us a hint of what's to come. Back with us is criminal defense attorney Donte Mills and Jesse Weber, attorney and anchor on the Law and Crime Network and a NewsNation contributor. Jesse, what did you learn from the questions that were being asked in jury selection?
I want to start with the prosecution because I think what they highlighted were the potential weaknesses of their case.
Of their own case?
Of their own case. They want to know if the jury is going to be open to convicting somebody based on purely circumstantial evidence alone. Could they be able to convict if they find that somebody was part of the agreement, was part of this plan, but maybe not of every aspect of it, which I think is central to this case. They also suggested, would you be able to determine that someone is guilty if you don't know the exact cause of death? The reason that is significant is because the bodies of JJ and Tylee, they were found in a very altered state, and it's possible we may not have all the answers. So their questioning signal to me, is this jury open to convicting if they don't have 100% of the answers?
All right, let's take on the defense. What did you learn about what the defense may be based on listening to the lawyers' questions?
Absolutely. In jury selection, what you try to do is highlight your weak points and see if you can get a juror off who wouldn't agree with you. So the defense in this case, religion is a huge deal. You heard, and you mentioned it just a couple seconds ago, she referred to her children as zombies. She thought their souls were lost. So the defense attorneys asked the jurors, can you have someone who's an extremist, a religious extremist, and say that they're not guilty, or give them the benefit of doubt? Because there's no way around saying that she was really an extremist religiously. She thought her children's souls were lost, and she said that verbally. So you can't ignore that. But what they wanted to know is, can a jury hear that and still believe she didn't take their souls, that she didn't take their life?
And you had mentioned to me before that you are getting a sense from the questions of what the defense's strategy here is going to be at trial as well.
Absolutely. So Jesse talked about the fact that this is a circumstantial case. We don't have an eyewitness to the murder. We don't even know how the murders happened. She's saying she put in an alibi defense saying she was in her apartment when they were killed. So she has a brother who allegedly was involved in a previous murder of one of her previous husbands. He's now deceased. They're going to push this crime onto her brother and say, I had nothing to do with it. I was home in my apartment. They were at my brother's home, and that's where the murders had to have happened, he must have done
And
it.
I think they're also going to focus on the mental health and vulnerability of Lori Vallow, that she was manipulated by Chad, she was manipulated by Alex, and it's very easy to point the finger at a dead person. And so I think that's really what they're going to highlight if I had to guess. But, you know, you and I were talking that they could convict her of conspiracy and they could convict her of murder of the children, even if she didn't directly kill the children.
Thank you for watching. Go to newsnationnow.com to find NewsNation on your cable provider. And don't forget to click the red subscribe button below to get more of NewsNation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.